Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Monster Hunter Wilds. This time we're talking about weapon power though, their rankings compared to one another, but what does that actually mean? Well, simply their ability to complete the hardest challenge we had in that limited beta, which means Ray down and his optional quest. How fast was each weapon able to take Ray down at the highest levels? That forms the basis for these rankings. But I want you to take this with a heavy grain of salt. After all, it was a beta and it was limited. The possibility that weapons we had in this beta will be changed at launch is there, whether it's stats or even the way they work. And if they're not changed, even then there's still going to be the gear and the skills that come with it in the full game, which will make a big difference. And so, also, none of this really matters. If your favorite weapon had the slowest time in the beta, like killing Ray Dow, or maybe it had the lowest potential output in the full game. It's Monster Hunter. In this game, you defeat monsters, you enjoy your weapon, you play solo with friends, there's no real leaderboard, and there's no ranking that you're gonna earn. So please don't take this too seriously, it's just interesting to look at and also talk about. Now with that said, how are we even forming any sort of valid rankings? Well, we're basing it entirely off weapon runs that have been posted with proof, meaning clear footage showing no cheating uploaded online, and I'm basing this list on actual weapon runs, not the runs that are like, oh, this is a switch axe run, but it's actually 50% heavy bowgun on boulders. If you're unaware, it was very much optimal to defeat Ray Dow by using a heavy bowgun to buff yourself with things like demon ammo, and then use lure pods to bring him to multiple boulders over and over through the cave system. On top of that, using the heavy bowgun, you'd apply the sleep ammo, which would put him to sleep for a double damage wake up via a boulder, which would be ridiculous damage. Now I ask you, which part of that is a switch axe speedrun? Well, some of it. Because they would use the switch axe, say, to deal damage to a knockdown monster at points. But because of that, hilarious comments on speedrun videos that are actually using their weapons are generally like, hey, it's great to see a longsword speedrun where I'm actually watching a longsword being used in this speedrun. So be aware that there's even better times for various weapons that are kind of half boulder and half bowgun with no rules. Finally, how do we track this? Ultimately, we need proof, right? There needs to be a video with a run with a valid time, as I said. But there's also rules. Some rules don't allow everything to be used. Some are called freestyle and allow mostly anything. The rankings I followed today then comes from the best source that I've found. This Japanese website, GameWith. It lists the known runs posted to YouTube and they cut it into two categories. No rockfall and including rockfall. You might be wondering why not use something like speedrun.com. Well, I looked at different listings like that and it is very limited now. There isn't a lot of submissions there and certainly not an accurate showing of weapons against each other. Meanwhile, GameWith seemed to be the much more accurate source, though I'm sure it's not perfect. So this is the best tracking that I've found. And with that in mind, let's get into it, starting from the bottom. At the bottom then, at number 14, we have Lance with a 6 minute and 50 second run. Lance being at the bottom is a disappointment for me because Lance was noticeably changed in Wilds. In regards to adding the whole shield side being an offensive tool, allowing for kind of KO build up and a new moveset. Also, they enhanced the base moveset in various ways, and in my opinion, it was looking like one of the better versions of the weapon. To see it lower on the list is a disappointment, but again, it doesn't really matter. It still has great improvements and it's still going to be an effective and reasonable weapon to learn. If you're a new player, I think it might be the best weapon to recommend. Above that at 13 though, we had Switch Axe with a 6 minute and 38 second run. Switch Axe being this low surprised me, because I saw some very, very fast runs when they were using the whole boulder silliness. I think Switch Axe is just a great punish tool because of its new moveset. The core of its DPS is based around full release slash, right, which is a very slow but effective animation. So if you were against like a target dummy and just able to do that over and over, I think it might have some of the highest DPS of all the weapons. But the reality is you're not able to, mindlessly do what you want against a monster. You have to deal with what it's doing, and it's a slower weapon. So in that context, I guess, maybe that's why it had a 6 minute and 38 second run. Just above it at number 12 though, we have Heavy Bowgun with 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's literally an 8-second difference. There's not much there, you could swap them easily. So Heavy Bowgun being lower on the list is interesting because, like I said, the time difference from when you actually include using boulders is insane. Let me explain. While Heavy Bowgun had a 6 minute and 30 clear time when just using the bowgun, it was actually second place if you allowed people to use the tricks with the boulders. with a 3 minute and 41 second run, which is absolutely insane. So the utility of the weapon can't be denied. And if you're going to use this weapon in the real game, why wouldn't you make use of that boulder next to you or your different ammos and that kind of thing? If you're looking at pure output and being a purist, I'm just using the heavy bowgun to kill the monster, then yeah, it's definitely on the lower end. But the utility of the weapon and what that's all about is why it's so good, and clearly it's got good potential. On that note, we do jump a bit ahead in time here with 11th place. We have Sword and Shield with a 5 minute and 51 clear time. That's a pretty big jump from the last rankings, but it's still like 11th place. And that's also interesting because Sword and Shield is another one that allows for smooth swapping using items you grapple instantly mid-fight. If we were to look at the whole including boulders trick thing for, Sword and Shield, their clear time there was 3 minutes and 50 seconds. That was 4th place. So again, just like the heavy bowgun, if you allow for utility and don't allow like specific rules and purist DPS with just the weapon, it's also a much higher ranking weapon. And again, in the real game, I think you will make use of all your options. Above those then at 10th place is light bowgun, and that had a 5 minute and 32 second clear time, almost 20 seconds faster than the Sword and Shield. That's interesting to me because I find the light bowgun, out of all the weapons, the least interesting in terms of new changes and impactful changes in Wilds. Not to say that you can't enjoy the weapon, it's still very fun. But in terms of the changes that it got compared to the rest of the weapons, I found that it seemingly got the least flashy stuff and new things. Still, the core is very useful, all the different ammo types, the utility with that. You could strongly argue that instead of having a heavy bowgun as your second weapon, the light bowgun is going to be a great pick as well. Right, that brings us to 9th place, which is where my main weapon is dual blades, with a 5 minute and 24 second clear time. We're getting pretty quick here. Dual Blades has a lot of potential here because of its new demon dodge ability. Every time you land this perfect evade while you are in demon mode or archdemon mode, you activate demon dodge, and that provides a damage boost to both physical and element damage. Why I think it's lower in the rankings could be to the fact that we only have the specific raw Hope Dual Blades. In the full release, I think we're going to be using element weapons, more than likely, right? And so you're going to use the element that monster's weakest to maximize your output. I do think in the full release, we're going to see noticeably higher rankings for dual blades, with demon dodge and element weapons in mind. Very cool to see. At 8th place though is Hunting Horn with a 5 minute and 2 second clear time. Hunting Horn is this interesting mix now between what we saw with the Worlds version and the Rise version. In Rise, they made it a much more aggressive, unique, separated from hammer weapon. Now, it's walked back a little bit of the craziness that it had, but it still has plenty of craziness with those echo bubbles and, melody storing mid-echo bubble or say during one of your focus mode attacks. And they do have one of my favorite offset types where you're able to press the button and hold it and then release instantly. So being able to hold for a bit and then send it out makes that a lot easier. To see it stand on its own pretty well here at 8th place, yeah, I'm happy for the weapon. Now above that at number 7 is interesting. We have Insect Glaive with a 4 minute and 57 second clear time, which is only 5 seconds faster than Hunting Horn. Why this is so interesting is because Insect Glaive is one of the more controversial weapons, with the removal of the aerial bounce, with some changes to your core infinite combo, with a new way that you're generating your Kinsect essences by attacking with the Kinsect at the same time instead of that old aiming minigame. There's a lot of discussion around the core function of this weapon and how greatly changed it is, but what you can't deny is its raw output is clearly still there. It's bang on the middle at 7th place. So it's still clearly a very effective weapon whether you're into the new style or not. But above that, at 6th place, is Hammer with a 4 minute and 54 second clear. Hammer got one of the most awesome new moves, the Mighty Charge, that hilarious spin that's also incredibly effective at landing consistent output. And then they have the benefits of an offset that comes through their normal combos, whether you follow it from the spinning bludgeon or just the raw combo that leaves into the upswing. Just like Hunting Horn, you can also hold that and let it release at the right time, making it, as long as you get to it, a more reliable offset that I really like. So I think the new hammer is awesome, and to see it do well in output, I'm barely surprised. Above it though, just barely at 5th place, was a greatsword with a 4 minute and 48 second clear, 6 seconds faster than hammer. Greatsword is doing very well at a base level with a new way that the true charge attacks or getting to hard hitting attacks is so easy after an offset, after a shoulder tackle maintaining the charge. Maybe you landed a clash and then the follow up there is really good. They might not have the most interesting focus punish, but it's still decent. I would say the core kit of greatsword is very solid in Wilds. I think greatsword mains that are just looking for those smooth improvements should be happy. And to see that its output is so good too, 5th place, yeah, they've done well. But you know who's done better? It's 4th place with Gunlance, with a 4 minute and 35 second clear time. The output of the new Gunlance is serious. That new combo where you can do 2 worm stakes in one big sustained combo is awesome to look at, feels amazing to use, but as it turns out, the general output of Gunlance is really good. And it's also a safe option because you have that big shield to pull out the quick guards that are so rewarded in this version of the game. And the core gameplay loop has had so many improvements. I mean, Gunlance players, I think visually, spectacle-wise, the new improvements to the core gameplay, but to find out that their output is also this good, I think Gunlance mains are happy across the board. But to no one's surprise, in the top 3 is Longsword, but 3rd place did surprise me. Longsword at 3rd place with 4 minutes and 34 seconds for their clear, snagged that 3rd place with a mix of all of the new, really effective ways to level up. Spirit charge slash, the follow-up after the round slash when you got red gauge, the way you can cancel the Helmbreaker, though speedrunners, they're never going to be doing that. But obviously the new Spirit release follow-up that deals even more damage than the Helmbreaker, and at range, and all that hyper armor stuff is crazy. So I expected Longsword to be very high up, and what's interesting about this is that we didn't have the quick sheath skill. That's going to be ridiculous in the full release. If it's this good without some of its core skills, it's only going to get better. So maybe that's what's held it back. Maybe that's why it's 3rd and not 1st or 2nd. But still, 3rd is very good. But 2nd place goes to Charge Blade, and I'm excited because I plan to play that weapon quite a lot in Wilds. With a 4 minute and 6 second clear time, that is almost 30 seconds faster than Longsword. This is an incredible showing. And yes, it goes to show how effective Power Axe mode is at absolutely dumpstering a monster with high DPS while maintaining high DPS consistently because of the half vial cost while you're in Power Axe mode. Just chainsawing through the monster for seriously effective output as you do it. Not to mention you can pull out the shield for the great guard points, or of course the reliable perfect guards. There's the new overcharged vial mechanic system, and there's just so many ways to get to what you want. Whether that's the new way you charge your shield, or say like the 4 ways you can activate Power Axe mode in the first place. It feels amazing, and I also feel like it's more approachable than ever before because of all the new ways you can do stuff. So if you didn't try Charge Blade in the beta, I'd recommend whether they do a demo or at release, definitely give it a go. It's also really good, clearly. But at 1st place, the absolute king is bow, which does not come as a massive surprise. When we saw the weapon trailers and saw how much was just slammed into its base kit, it was crazy. The new gauge system to generate your consistent coatings is actually really nice. Tracer arrows allowing you to always be hitting that weak point. The way that Dragon Piercer is actually a thing, like the fast version that combos. And obviously, the discerning dodge when you land perfect evades, restoring your stamina, actually a very impactful thing in this beta when we didn't have skills. So that would help really good players maintain their stamina to maintain DPS. And obviously that shows in speedruns. A 3 minute and 40 second clear time is 26 seconds faster than the 2nd place run at 4 minutes and 6 seconds. So it's pretty on top. So yeah, the fastest clear was bow, but interestingly, if we did allow for the silly boulder and bowgun trick to maximize output, bow actually still had the fastest clear, and only slightly faster. The fastest run listed right now was 3 minutes and 28 seconds using those boulder drops. That's only 12 seconds faster than just using the weapon itself. Pretty big deal, and shows how strong the bow really was in that beta. Anyway, I hope this overview gives you a nice indication of where things stood in that beta. Hopefully at launch, there will be some slight changes and rebalancing with the weapons, but we will see. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.